going to go live on the cloud system, just in case if something goes wrong, we can always have the recording. All right. Welcome to our meeting today. It's a fantastic day to run for precinct executive positions. We have some new faces over here. One of them is my own friend. Believe it or not, just a couple of days ago, one of the major satellite TV and also, you know, social media TV, which is an Iranian TV, but not the Islamic regime TV, is the opposition that is fighting with the demons of Islamic regime. They actually had an interview with us, and the vice president of the party right now is in the room, Mohsen Keirabadi. And what happened actually, this nationalistic and patriotic movement of the Iranian party and TV, so endorse us, and they asked all the Iranian Americans to join us. And that's wonderful because all the Iranian citizens, American citizens, can join us, and we are going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, because Iranians, just like our Cubans, they have been under a tyrannical government, and a government that is Marxist Islamist. Lots of people think, oh, that's just Islam. No, everything they do is based on Marxism. So they're supporting us. It's wonderful. That's the good news. But what doesn't destroy me makes me stronger. We have a couple of hiccups, and that's Jim Condit Jr. And unfortunately, today, I just a few minutes ago, I found out that Dan Schultz also has some problem. We don't want you to be worried. Everything is based on the schedule, and we're going to actually find out more about the situation about our friend Dan Schultz, and he's one of our leaders. So we're going to find out what happened, what made them not available today. But before anything else, what I'm going to do, I'm going to run last week's video of our friend Jim Condit Jr. and also our founder Jim Condit Jr. And he's going to basically explain what our strategy, our precinct strategy is. Because lots of people wonder, if you're new, they wonder what exactly are we talking about. So stay tuned. I'm going to run that video for you. I'm here if you have any question, if you have any comment, let me know. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere else. So you can basically talk about it. All right. All right. So just a sec. There's somebody actually. Oh, thank you so much, Maria. I appreciate it. Right. So exactly. Oh, I see. Well, let's get rid of this thing here.
And he kept trying to get on somebody's show that could get somebody to, he was trying to get them to announce it, like Sarah Palin or Glenn Beck back in 2007, 8. Finally, a few months ago, he broke through, and who had kind of become his friend Steve Bannon of the War Room put him on. And that began the rush to people understanding this, at least the concept. But I know people are still wondering, is this really yes, this is really the thing. Now, the reason we do Precinct is if you write a letter, if you got the energy to do that, good. If you visit your congressman, if you go to a rally, which I like to do, with Trump or Buchanan in the 90s, Ron Paul, some of these people, especially the Trump rallies, great fun. We scream and we go home. And then they keep doing what they're doing, okay? In writing letters and visiting them, we're kind of, and I blame, again, I say every call, our leaders, the groups I like, NRA, Right to Life, Ron Paul movement, the Patriot, the Tea Party in general. They've hit this issue of precinct strategy, but they haven't done it in a vigorous enough way, sometimes not even in a proper way, okay? So our leaders have kind of treated us over the last 40 years like these people in Congress, these people running the Republican Party, they're like superior beings to you. And all we can do is go and please do something for us. Please stand up for the Constitution. We're begging these superior beings to do something for us. And they're not worried about that. And they're often responding to pressures and money and power and advantages they'll get for following the rhinos who are running at this point, running most of the country and most of the Republican Party. Okay. So this is where you become the party, where you become the Congress. Some of us become the party leaders of the Congress. This is the only way to do this peacefully and constitutionally. Abraham Lincoln referred to it in 1860. He said, get our precinct people out to walk the neighborhoods. But the reason we're doing this, before I tell you how it works, the reason we're doing it is because this is how we become the party leaders. We're going to talk about the Republican Party in this call. This is how but the same works for the Democrats. The Democrats and Republicans control every last county, every state, all of the federal government. So they want us to go out. I like the Constitution Party. Somebody else likes the Libertarian Party. They want us to go out in meetings out there, out of their way, and have meetings that make us feel good. But that's not where the power is. The power is taking the party leadership into the hands of people who are conscience over party and pro-Constitution. Okay, so it's a precinct strategy only. The neighborhood precinct committeeman strategy, as it's called in many places, sometimes places different names. That strategy is the only way to become the party, to become the Congress. Now, and then we can take back the destiny of the country. And this could all happen very quickly. If we're trying to get Dan Schultz in front of Donald Trump, and Trump, if he started mentioning this and mentioning in his speeches, putting up an 800 number, saying, call me and we'll tell you how to run in your neighborhood precinct and we'll take back the Republican Party. And, with overwhelming constitutionalists and people that want the Second Amendment and the Bill of Rights and many of these rhinos will tell you they want that private, but they're tied into the system and they're still putting party over principle. We can't have that if we want to turn the country around. So that is why. This is how we save the country, by changing the Congress and changing the party leaders. Now, how does it work? In 1972, I was an alternate delegate to the Nixon convention, and I feel like a moron because for 14 years, from 1972 when I was 19 till 1986 when I was 33, I never thought about it. I just thought, well, I guess the Republican Party leaders, rich people pick them. I just never thought about it. And then somebody in 1986 taught us all. He had gone to the Pat Robertson Christian Coalition thing. Robertson was about to run for president, so Robertson was teaching his people how this worked because he wanted to take over the Republican Party. So he came and explained to us that the party leaders in your county, we're talking about a county now. I live in Hamilton County in Ohio. You live in a county. Hamilton County, for instance, here and where you are, the precinct people elect the party leaders. So we call the precinct office the most powerful office in the land when you understand it. So there's one country we're talking about, USA, 50 states. There's 3,141 counties. Most people don't know that, but they do know what county they live in. And that county is divided into little geographical areas, about 10 or 15 streets around your house in the city. And these boundaries for your little neighborhood precinct are just as they're just as well defined as the state and the county. So you might live in a neighborhood precinct. It's your voting precinct, not your police precinct. By the way, there's a 1 in 100 chance I'm going to get disconnected now. If I do, Q, I'll be back with you on the computer in 2 minutes. But so anyway, so these little neighborhood precincts, it's so exact that if you like got a main street where you are, if you got a main street, then you might find that 2242 Main Street is in your neighborhood precinct, and 2246, one house over, is in the next guy's. But these are very well defined, very, very well defined areas. Okay, so we all live in a neighborhood precinct, and it's where you, it's where you and all of your people in your neighborhood go to vote. And I vote at the White Oak Senior Center, and you vote somewhere. And that all the people in your precinct, when they show up in person, go to that place to vote. So these little neighborhood precincts, this is where we're losing the country, because we don't even know we're in a precinct. And so, for instance, when in Ohio, and I can only use one state at a time as an example, but in Ohio, every May, every 2 years in May, 2022 is the next one, next May. They have when you go to vote for primary in the Republican Party, and maybe you vote for the congressman, maybe you vote for the governor. There's people trying to win the Republican primary for governor. Well, at the very end, there's a place nobody noticed for committeeman, and most people don't even notice it. I didn't for 14 years. And the committeeman, if there's nobody running, which there often isn't, 1/3 of these all-important places are vacant. These all-important offices are vacant, 1/3, maybe more. And so if you're running and you're running alone, then you just vote for yourself and you win. And if you got competition, then whoever gets the most votes, everybody in your street, in your neighborhood votes for who they want to be precinct executive. They may not even know what it is. Okay. So we're losing first the country because we're not even on the ballot for precinct. Okay. Now let's go further and talk about, let's go further and talk about how you get on the ballot for precinct. Different in each state. In Ohio, you get 5 signatures. You can get for $2 or online. You can get a list that tells you everybody that lives in your precinct. Sometimes it's online, or you got to buy it. Okay, for $2. And then you know who are the Republicans, Democrats, Independents, who's not registered to vote. And very simply, you get 5 signatures. And in Ohio, if you're running Republican, you can get Republican signatures or independent, or you can register people. But you get on the ballot with 5 ballot signatures. There could be 1 person on the ballot or 50 people on the ballot. If 50 people got 5 signatures to run for precinct executive or precinct committeeman, which never happens. There's never more than 2 or 3 ever. Usually there's 1 or none. So we get on the ballot, and then, okay, so that's the thing. You're on the ballot in May, and let's say you win. Here is where we're really losing the country, because nobody knows about this. By state law in Ohio, and it's same in every state, something happens. By state law in Ohio, then there's a meeting 1 month later in June of next year. The state law says the Republicans and Democrats must hold a meeting so that all the precinct executives that were elected at the May primary can vote on who the party leader is. And as I say, this is where we're losing the country. But for some reason, none of our leaders will tell us about to speak of. Steve Bannon thankfully let us have a breakthrough when he had Dan on there. But so the point is, you go to this meeting, it's like a convention center, or if you're in a small county, then maybe, maybe you would go to, maybe you would go to a school, gym or something. So you go here, and then all the elected precinct executives elect the party leaders, the head. So we would elect the head of the Hamilton County Republican Party leader in Hamilton County, Ohio. Okay. So once you do that, that leader of the county usually acts as kind of a dictator for the next 2 years. And I don't mean that as a criticism. Most people don't want to be involved. We need to be involved. That's the main thing we need. But people just trying to leave it. And him and his team, his executive committee, endorses the candidates. And so here's again why we're running. Why? And 95% of the endorsed candidates win in the last 100 years, because the party usually has enough manpower to have somebody there at each precinct passing out a little, voter's guide, and people, it's election day, I don't know who's running. They take the Republican thing if they're Republican, and they vote for who was endorsed. So that's a critical reason, because who's endorsed wins the primary usually and can go on to be the congressman. Okay. Secondly, the county, not the state, the county party leaders decide how the vote is counted. Okay. So the vote is all important, and we're counting it illegally and unverifiably in 99% of the country. We had a guest on a few weeks ago, Doug Bersall, who was a head of Richmond, New Hampshire, and he explained how they do it. They do it right in 5 counties in New Hampshire. That's the only place in the country where they count paper ballots before the ballots leave the public site, so nobody can switch ballots or cheat. And that's how we got to do it all over the country again, which was what we did before 1970, basically, when computers started coming in. But so secondly, not only endorsing the candidates that become the Congress, they pick how the vote is counted. Third, the county party leaders. We have 88 counties in Ohio. You have so many counties in your state. The county party leaders meet in Columbus, Ohio, and they elect the state party leader, who sets all the rules for the Senate and endorses the senators and that type of thing. Then the 50 state Republican Party leaders get together somewhere, maybe in St. Louis, in September of next year, and they elect the head of the party, which is now Romney's relative. I think her name is Coney. I don't want to say her name wrong, but she's a Romney relative. I keep forgetting who she is, but she's head of the party, and she's definitely a rhino. We need to put in somebody in there that is going to be a constitutionalist, So look at all the power. That's why we call the precinct committeeman position, a neighborhood precinct committeeman position, the most powerful office in the land. They decide how the votes counted in their county. They decide who will be endorsed, and 95% of the time, historically, the endorsed candidate wins at the primary and then can go on and be the congressman in the general election. They elect the state leaders who set the rules for the state and endorse the senators and so forth. And then the state leaders, all coming from your little neighborhood precinct and all the other neighborhood precincts, the state leaders elects the head of the Republican Party nationally, who sets all the rules for the convention. Okay? So that is why we run, because this is the only way that we can peacefully take back the country. I always say, kind of being smart, like, if you want to pull out the guns like 1776, then that's the only other way to try to change power. Now, Dan Schultz and me and everybody, we've been working for 40 years, as most of you have, to peacefully do this. We want to peacefully do this. We're not urging anybody to pick up guns, because who would you shoot? I mean, and a civil war is a disaster for everyone. We're talking, as we have our whole lives, about peacefully taking back this country, okay, by the peacefully taking it back through the precinct strategy that I just explained to you. And if you said, gee, that was awful fast, I didn't get that, maybe I didn't say it the best way, if you go to networkamerica.org, then we have a 1-minute video up there that Dan Schultz put together that's excellent. And right under that is Dan's interview a few months ago with Steve Bannon, where he explains in detail how this works. And then from there, you can, or right away, you can go to his
website, which is precinctstrategy.com, precinctstrategy.com. Also at networkamerica.org, which is is our website, is just to help people get together. You can join the Facebook side. Anybody can talk to anybody. We're not seeking members per se. We're seeking to connect all the literally thousands of leaders and activists that are upset and want to do something. And this is what to do, and it's the only thing to do to peacefully and constitutionally take back the country. It's not in competition, which is your favorite issue. It's the missing ingredient, so we can all get the important issues accomplished. It's the missing ingredient. Okay. So now I don't know. Is Chet Hand on the call?
Yes, he's here. I can see him.
All right. Well, let's.
Patiently sitting here. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Let me give Chet. Hi. Good. Let me.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our show tonight, our meeting, sorry, not show. And I was just running Dan Schultz's video on BitChute, actually. And I'm going to do it again because some people actually saw that and they wanted to see that from the beginning, which I'm going to do. And anyway, Dan Schultz wanted to speak today, but something bad happened to Dan Schultz today. Hopefully, he's going to be okay. But like I said, what doesn't kill me makes me stronger. All right, so let's run that video. It's on BitChute, but some people actually have it on Rumble. I found Rumble better than BitChute somehow. But let's run it. And if you have, after this, you have questions, comments, please, please, please do not hesitate to raise your hand. And I actually let you to speak. And if somebody has the answer, they can come up. If not, I try to find the answer for you. Thank you so much. Let's run that video.
You got conservatives in the majority in the precinct committeeman ranks. You're going to have conservative members on the RNC representing your state party at the RNC level. I've been told by people who are members of the RNC that 80% of the RNC members are swamp dwellers. Right. They're anti-Trump. Whose fault is that? It's our fault. It's the conservatives' fault because we're not in the real ball game of politics changing our party. And we can, and it's easy to do. We've got to do it. We're failing our country, we're failing our party, and we're failing our ability to elect better people. We've got to elect better people. What I say to conservatives who are complaining always about the Republican Party, the only reason the Republican Party isn't conservative enough for you is because you're not in it. Get into it.
Yeah, get into it, get in on the bottom floor, and that change will percolate up. We'll be right back. You need to defend your civilization against the onslaught of this cancer of progressivism, liberalism, and globalist brainwashing. This is a life or death situation. No messing around. The prescription is 2 doses of InfoWars taken daily.
You're watching The American Journal. Watch live right now at band.video.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to The American Journal. My name is Harrison Smith. Very happy to welcome my guest today. His name is Dan Schultz. He's an elected Arizona Republican Party precinct committeeman and state committeeman. He's also a veteran, an attorney, and an author. Mr. Schultz has over 10 years of experience in all aspects of political party governance and campaigns for both political party and public office. In 2017, Dan published the definitive book for the individual supporter to help President Donald J. Trump, quote, How to Get into the Real Ballgame of Politics, Where You Live to Help President Donald J. Trump Make America Great Again. And his first book on the neighborhood precinct committeeman strategy was aptly named Taking Back Your Government. the Neighborhood Precinct Committeeman Strategy, which is what we'd like to talk about with him today. You can find more about Daniel Schultz by visiting precinctstrategy.com and djschultzlaw.com. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Schultz.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Well, I love this because we're always looking for solutions here and how people can get involved. And it's not always so easy to get involved in politics. There's a lot of levels of, you know, that you have to pierce through before you can actually do anything effective, it seems. But your whole thing is that you have a very easy solution, or maybe not easy, but a very effective solution in the precinct committees. Can you tell us about this?
Sure. It's real simple. And everything that's in my book and everything that's on my website, I learned in 7th grade civics back in the 60s, which tells you how ancient I am. But basically, it's, you know, we're Americans. It's not that difficult to get into this political party process of ours. The party, at least the Republican Party in some states, make it very difficult because they don't want you in their little party.
Right.
But we're Americans. We ought to be able to figure this out. It's not rocket science. What you've got to do, I did it the old-fashioned way here in Arizona way back in 2007 when I decided. I knew all about this, like I said, from 7th grade. But I hadn't been actually a precinct committeeman until I got over here to Arizona, when the immigration thing was getting out of control. And so I called my state party and I said, where do I go? Had to call and call and call and call and call. But, you know, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. They directed me to Maricopa County Republican Committee. Now, remember, everybody in the party, almost everybody, in some states there are paid positions, but in almost every state, even the state chairman is an unpaid volunteer position, like here in Arizona. Our state chairwoman, Kelly Ward, doesn't have a salary. She does this for free because we can't afford to pay her a salary because there's no conservatives in our state who are Republicans who will give money to the party enough to pay her salary. So she's a volunteer. Our county chairwoman is a volunteer. All of the officers of the Maricopa County Republican Committee are volunteers. All of the precinct committeemen are volunteers. And what I did is I called my county. I said, I want to volunteer. They welcomed me. There were about 20 people there. I said, where's everybody? They said, well, this is about the number of people we get every meeting every month. I go, well, how many slots do you have? Oh, we have about 160 slots. Well, how many are filled? Oh, about 40. So we were operating at 1/4 strength at that time. So, I mean, when you volunteer to become a precinct committeeman, in most cases, because over half of the slots nationwide are vacant in the Republican Party, on average, you're going to get the slot because it's open, it's vacant, and nobody's going to run against you. Every 2 years, we run in the primary here in Arizona. You usually run unopposed, and you win by default. And so it's a big opportunity for America Firsters to get into our party and take it over. That's the first step of getting our government back. We've got to take over one of the two major parties. Our party, Donald Trump's party, is the Republican Party. We've got to use it. We've got to take it over. It's easy to do. And if we do this, then not only do we change the party and change the makeup of the RNC, but we change also our ability to elect better people in the all-important primary elections. The primary elections here in Arizona, on average, get 20-25% turnout of Republicans. So if you've got a good conservative running against an incumbent rhino, like in the state legislature races, 2016, that happened in my legislative district. I volunteered to help a guy. We got out the vote using precinct committeemen. We got the lower information, lower propensity voters. We targeted them, going door to door and making phone calls. boosted the turnout. He beat the incumbent Rhino 53 to 47.
Oh, wow.
Complete shocker. We can do that in every primary race, but we need bodies. We need people getting involved. And it doesn't take a lot of work. The commitment, maybe 3 hours a month to go to one meeting a month, right. And then maybe 3 hours of getting out the vote in the primary and in a really good, tight way, efficient way. I've got a video on my site that explains how I've done it.
Yeah.
We can boost turnout. We boost turnout for the best conservatives in the primary. Best conservative's going to win.
Well, I love it because it's grassroots. It's really from the bottom up, right? This is how you change things with a real groundswell. It doesn't take a lot of work, and I think best of all, it's like this is something that everybody can do and should be doing, because a lot of times people don't get involved in politics because they think either, well, I'm in a red area, so I don't really have to do anything because we're going to go red no matter what, or I'm in a blue area, so it's not worth it to do anything because we're going to go blue no matter what, right? But this is a way that even if your area is already conservative, you can have a say in that conservative movement. And if your area is more liberal, you can help to build the Republican Party, right? I mean, this is a win-win solution no matter who you are or where you live.
Absolutely. We've got to change the RNC as well. And this is how you do it. There's 160 RNC members. That's 3 people from each state, 5 territories in the District of Columbia. Three from each. How did they get there? They're not appointed by anybody. They get elected. Who elects them? The precinct committeemen elect electors of those people. Okay. Now I have 3 kids. They're now in their early 20s. When they turned 18, each one of them became a precinct committeeman. A couple of them made it to state committeemen. The way it works here in our state, for every 3 precinct committeemen, there's 1 state committeeman. The precinct committeeman elects state committeeman at the legislative district committee level and county level. Those state committeemen go to a meeting in January after the primary, the organizational meeting of the state party. There they elect the chairman for a 2-year term. The chairman of each state serves on the RNC. If you want a conservative chairman, you got to have conservative precinct committeemen and state committeemen in a majority position. That's what we need to do. We need to get more conservatives into the party. The precinct committeemen also elect the delegates to the 4-year presidential nominating convention. Only the precinct committeemen elect them. Anybody can run to be a delegate. Only precinct committeemen elect those delegates. Those delegates in turn elect the national committeeman and the national committeewoman to a 4-year term. Again, you've got conservatives in the majority in the precinct committeeman ranks. You're going to have conservative members on the RNC representing your state party at the RNC level. I've been told by people who are members of the RNC that 80% of the RNC members are swamp dwellers.
Right.
They're anti-Trump. Whose fault is that? It's our fault. It's the conservatives' fault because we're not in the real ball game of politics changing our party, and we can, and it's easy to do. We've got to do it. We're failing our country, we're failing our party, and we're failing our ability to elect better people. We've got to elect better people. What I say to conservatives who are complaining always about the Republican Party, the only reason the Republican Party isn't conservative enough for you is because you're not in it.
Stop it.
Get into it.
Yeah, get into it, get in on the bottom floor, and that change will percolate up. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to American Journal. My name is Harrison Smith. My guest is Dan.
Stop it.
Website, Precinct Strategy.
Stop. I'm getting so angry with you.
.com is where you can go to find his work, and his latest book is called Taking Back Your Government, the Neighborhood Precinct Committeeman Strategy. We're talking about ways that you can get involved in your local Republican Party in order to change the tide of this entire country. And, Mr. Schultz, you said that you learned about all of this in civics class in the 60s, which you said makes you ancient. I say it makes you more experienced and definitely more knowledgeable, because by the time I went to school, we didn't have civics class. We didn't learn any of this. So I think it'd be valuable for our audience to sort of go back to the basics, so we understand what even are precincts. Is everybody in a precinct? How does that percolate up, and how does the precinct level actually affect national or state politics? Just for us who grew up in the 90s when we learned about, diversity and inclusion rather than how our government actually works.
In a voting precinct. And, there are police precincts, but we're talking now about voting precincts. And it's typically, a neighborhood. I call it, your voting precinct is your political neighborhood. And there's maybe 1,000 to 2,000 voters in a typical precinct. It varies greatly from state to state, but that's the way it is here in Arizona. I live in a suburban area, so my precinct has about 2,000 voters in it. And some of them are Republicans, some of them are independents, and some of them are Democrats. Some of them are libertarians. I think one or two might be in the Green Party. Anyways, the party gives you software once you become a precinct committeeman where you can see which houses have which voters in them on a list. And so what we have to do to become a precinct committeeman here in Arizona is we have to volunteer. And so my precinct has 11 slots. There's one precinct committeeman by statute in each party for roughly 125 voters. So again, do the math there. We've got about, a little over 1,000 Republicans in my precinct, and we have 11 slots. So when it comes time for the primary election to come around, we're going to all run on our ballot for to become an elected precinct committeeman. But the ballot usually never gets printed because usually there's fewer candidates than there are slots. So to save money, they don't print the ballot up. That really hurts us politically because then most people don't even know what a precinct committeeman is. Okay, so you have to get about 10 signatures, no more than 10. If you're in a precinct with very few Republicans, you might only have to get 3 signatures on a nomination petition. These don't even have to be notarized. And then you have to fill out a candidacy affidavit saying, I live in the precinct, I'm a Republican, this is where I live, I want to volunteer to be a precinct committeeman. And remember, precinct committeemen are volunteers. Once you become an elected precinct committeeman, you're top dog. Nobody can tell you what to do. Nobody can pick up the phone and say, hey, go stand in front of the Safeway with a clipboard and get signatures for this, that, or the other thing. You're a volunteer. You put into it what you want, but it's a powerful position. I have a link at my site to a pamphlet that Phyllis Schlafly has at the Eagle Forum. She's passed away, but this pamphlet is still there, and it's called the most powerful office in the world is not the President of the United States. It's precinct committeeman. And it is because precinct committeemen and only precinct committeemen gather together locally at the county level, except in Massachusetts, they don't have county committees. They only have local town committees. But they gather together, they elect officers, and then they elect, as I explained earlier, the people who elect everybody else all the way up, so to speak, to the RNC. So at the RNC level, all 168 positions are filled. And then down at the state party level, virtually every state position on their committees have been filled by the election process. Down at the county level, virtually every county committee is filled. All the officers are there. But where the party needs to be strongest, it's weakest, and that's down at the level at the precinct level. And there's about 400,000 of these slots all across the United States in the Republican Party, but only about 200,000 are filled. If conservatives would flock into these positions and volunteer and fill them all up, then when the next round of elections come for the party officers above them, they'd all end up being conservatives. That's my goal. I want to transform our party from a half-strength, ideologically split party. About half of the slots are conservative, about half are not conservative.
Sorry, folks. One of you guys, mic is still on. Please turn it off. Thank you so much.
Some people call those people Republicans in name only. rhinos. That's not a pejorative. That's a descriptive term because they're not really Republicans. They are in the party, but they don't believe in our platform. So we need to outnumber them. And we can because of all these vacancies. We can transform our party from a half-strength, ideologically split party into a full-strength, 75% majority party overnight if people would just flock into our party. And that's my goal, and that's why I'm talking to you right now. I want to see that happen because I don't want my kids living under socialism. We have essentially right now a one-party rule in this country. We have a feckless bunch of Republicans that we've allowed to get elected to represent us in the House and the Senate. We didn't do a good enough job getting into the party and filling up all these slots. We didn't do a good enough job becoming election judges and volunteering to be poll workers and poll watchers. I've done that every 2 years. I've done poll watching for our party here in Arizona. But there's never enough people doing it. There's never enough volunteers. We've got to take our country back by getting involved in this basic American civics stuff. There's another thing that they taught us in my civics class, this concept of civic duty. Right. We have a duty, a civic duty to know what the heck is going on in our country and then take steps to right the ship of state when it's overturned. We've got to fix it. There's only one way to fix it, the best way to fix it. And that is uniting and organizing politically where we live. And there's a structure already in place, already set up to do that. It's called the Republican Party. So let's use this party that we haven't been using. It's not hard to do. There are usually state parties have precinct committeeman handbooks. Some county write them for their precinct committeeman. Like I said, it's not hard. You have to read some bylaws. It's usually like 10 pages.
Right.
Read and study the bylaws. Read and study the bylaws. I say, read and study the bylaws. Everything's in there. It's not hard. You have to learn a little bit about Robert's Rules of Order, how to make a motion at a meeting. Right. But again, that's not hard to do either. That's what we need to do. We got to get involved and go back to a truly a two-party system where one party is not an echo of the other one. It's a real choice.
Absolutely, absolutely. And of course, we have good people now running, Joe Kent and a number of other people that are running, but we need to be the infantry that's there to back them up. I mean, they can be our generals, but they've got to have the troops behind them. And this is how you get involved. And, we didn't have enough poll watchers last election. I doubt we'll make that mistake again. And hopefully info warriors are out there getting involved and following these rules that are laid out at precinctstrategy.com. We're going to play a promo video from that.
Now they've announced all over the world contact tracers are coming to your house.
You're watching The American Journal with your host, Harrison Smith. Watch live right now at band.video.
Democrats are pushing a radical Marxist agenda, while weak Republicans let it happen. Do you feel helpless? Want to know how to fight back? Well, here's the answer. The PrecinctStrategy.com is a free resource on how to become your local GOP precinct committeeman. Precinct committeemen help elect county chairmen, officers, and even delegates to the RNC. There are over 400,000 committeeman seats across the U.S. But what the GOP establishment doesn't want you to know is that 200,000 of those seats are vacant. We need America First patriots to fill these seats. It's time to fight and kick the rhinos out. Help take back our party. You can make a difference. And PrecinctStrategy.com will show you how. Take action now. Be a warrior. Help save this great country. PrecinctStrategy.com now.
Wow, very powerful stuff. That's the intro video that you'll find at PrecinctStrategy.com. And I hope that you do go there because people are always asking, what can I do? What can I do? How do we get involved? How do we fight back? Here it is. Here's your answer. Here's your call to action. Go to PrecinctStrategy.com and check out their state-by-state guide. My guest is Dan Schultz, who runs PrecinctStrategy.com and has the book Taking Back Your Government, the Neighborhood Precinct Committeeman Strategy, which you can also find at PrecinctStrategy.com or DJSchultzLaw.com. And this is a great sort of first stop for people that want to be involved, right? Every state's a little bit different, but you have a state-by-state guide on precinctstrategy.com that can help people start to sort of dip their toe in the water and understand what it takes and what is required to be a precinct committeeman, right?
Yeah, and the book you mentioned is my first ebook, which is very, very short. The second book is How to Get into the Real Ball Game of Politics, Where You Live to Help President Donald J. Trump Make America Great Again. And that's all about the precinct committeeman strategy as well. That's available in paperback or in digital form at Amazon. And so, yeah, look, the bottom line here is, you know, we're in a war right now. And we're not, one side's fighting it and the other side, our side, isn't. You know, people want audits of the election. How are you going to impress upon the state legislators in all of these states to do these audits? The best way to send a signal to the state legislators is by filling up a vacant precinct committeeman slot. If we filled up this month all of the vacant precinct committeeman slots in all of these key states like Georgia, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan, if we did that in the Republican Party, those state legislators, those states have Republican majorities, they would see the writing on the wall and go, oh my goodness, the little people have figured out how to do politics. I'll be toast in the next primary in 2022 unless I do something and make this happen. That's what we need to do. We need to get back to paper ballots. How are we going to get back to paper ballots and no more imaging machines? We've got to get new laws. Who writes those laws? The state legislators. Who elects the state legislators? We the people do. Who elects them in the primary? We the people do. The problem is we don't have enough of we the people, conservative we the people, involved in the getting out the vote for the best primary candidates. We can do that. The best way to organize to do that is by becoming a precinct committeeman. You'll go to a monthly meeting, you'll meet other conservatives, and we'll strengthen our get out the vote capability precinct by precinct, spending a few hours, just a few, doing it efficiently. Like I said, I have a video at my site that explains how to do it. It's not rocket science. It's a little bit of organizing. That's what we need to do. And again, we're in a war right now, a political war, but we're not fighting it on our side. We've got to. We're being invaded on our southern border every day. Why aren't the Republicans in office doing something about it? We've got a Republican governor here in Arizona. What's he doing about it? Nothing. Greg Abbott in Texas, what is he doing? Nothing. Why? Well, here in Arizona, half of our precinct committeeman slots of the Republican Party are vacant. And, you know, he's term limited out, Ducey. He doesn't care, but he might care. He might care for his cronies if we all invaded the party. Same thing in Texas. I was on a call last night with a whole bunch of Texans all across the state of Texas. Almost every county that I asked them, how many slots do you have and how many are filled? Well, we've got, 250 slots in our county and 110 filled. That's just the way it is. We're not involved like we ought to be. We conservatives, we've got to get involved.
No,
okay?
I absolutely love this strategy. You don't need money. You don't need connections. You don't need a ton of experience. What you do need is a little bit of time and a little bit of passion. And honestly, it sounds fun. I want to go and meet a bunch of fellow Republicans and hang out in real life, not digitally for once. I mean, it sounds fun, actually. It sounds like a good way to spend your time. It's actually can help you. And you see all these problems, as you mentioned, the problem on the border, the vote audits, it can seem overwhelming at times, but this is an answer that addresses all of these questions at once because they all go back to the root of the issue, which, as you point out, is that we got one side that's aggressively promoting their destructive agenda, and the people actually tasked with protecting the things we love about this country are utterly failing and have totally abdicated their responsibility entirely. So there's enough people listening to us right now live, let alone the people that will see this after it's posted. If everybody that was watching this went and became a precinct committee member, that's it. Problem solved. I mean, we could fill up the whole thing. So I'm going to do it. I hope all of our audience will do it. And I hope they'll go to precinctstrategy.com to see Dan Schultz's guide on how exactly to do this in your state and wherever you are. So I think this is brilliant. I think this is true groundswell, changing the tide of politics legally and through the system that is erected for us to do that exact thing. Really incredible stuff. Anything else before we have to close out this interview, Mr. Schultz?
Yeah, and you just showed it there. If you go to my site, what I've tried to do over the years is if I find anything good about how it works in a particular state that's online, I link to it. So I have at least one thing for every state, like Alabama. All I've got is their state bylaws. That's the only thing that I've been able to find in Alabama. Alaska, I've got only one link, but Arizona, I have a lot of links. California, I have a lot of links, et cetera, et cetera. And so go to my site, whatever state you happen to be in, go to those state links, click on it, read what's there, and then do what I did. Call, be the squeaky wheel. Right. Find out where your local committee meets, whether it's a county committee meeting or it's like here in Arizona, we also have legislative district committee meetings. Find out where you need to go, call, be the squeaky wheel. Don't wear your Trumpism on your sleeve.
Right.
Say that I'm a good Republican. I want to have more Republicans. I want to help grow the party, and I want to help elect more Republicans to public office. Just say that.
Right.
How can they turn you away? They can't in good faith because you want to volunteer and help the party. That's what we need to do. We all got to step up to the plate. And if we don't do it, look, I can't guarantee that if we do this, fill up all these vacancies, that we're going to save the Republic. I can't guarantee that. But I can guarantee this, because I've studied communism. I was an intelligence officer. I got paid to study communism, okay, in the Army. I can guarantee you this, if we don't get united and organized politically where we live, according to the Precinct Committeeman strategy, I guarantee we're going to lose the Republic.
Very good point. That's a very good point. There's no guarantee that we win, but if you don't get involved, there is a guarantee that you lose. And I think, quite frankly, our chances are pretty good if people would actually get involved. We've got great politicians actually running on True America First policies now. There's tons of people out there just desperate for something like this. So be a leader, get involved, then you get connected, then you start, building your network, and then you start getting elected to higher offices. I mean, this isn't a flip a switch and it's done sort of thing. It's a start. It's the beginning. This is the true grassroots insurrection of political domination. I think it's amazing. PrecinctStrategy.com. Dan Schultz, thank you so much.
I've got some great news. DNA Force Plus, that's been sold out for more than 7 months, is back in stock. You're saying, why sold out for 7 months? Well, because of the COVID lockdowns, it's destroyed the supply chain. There are massive shortages in all of the different best-selling products out there. I have friends and family that go to the big vitamin stores, and their store shelves are empty because almost everything is sold out of quality. We could have degraded the quality and brought you crap right away. We didn't do it. This is the highest end PQQ, CoQ10, what it does for your cells, your body. Back because this Trojan horse, this Promethean fire, has a lot of power. But when I'm not using it, I lock it up in a high-quality Faraday cage, a privacy pocket at InfoWarsStore.com. We finally got them back in stock, the highest rated.
All right. Okay, thank you so much for being with us. Dan Schultz, unfortunately, is not in a good shape, and unfortunately neither Dan Schultz nor Jim Condit Jr. were able to come into our program today. I mean, our call today. We keep calling it show and program. I had a couple of shows this week, that's why. So if you have any question, any concern, any comment, please, by all means, raise your hand. And the way that you raise your hand is at the bottom of the screen. You would see almost far right, you see reaction. You can raise your hand and ask any question that you might have. If you don't have any question, then otherwise we're going to close the call. Unfortunately, like I said, Dan Schultz was not available today. So let me know. All right. So I suppose nobody has any question. Thank you so much for being with us. Again, I have some good news. We had a great show a couple of days, and Iranian American Patriotic Party, not the Ayatollahs, the opposition, the real Iran, not the one that CNN tries to tell you, actually endorse us, and they are asking Iranian Americans in United States to run for precinct, positions. Thanks again. That was a great news. I don't see that anybody is raising his or her hands. Thanks for being with us. Have a wonderful rest of the day and night, and we'll come back with more beautiful news from all over the country, from the counties and other, part of the